You keep dancing with the devil. One day he's gonna follow you home.
We got us a problem, y'all. What the hell going on?
Oh, we heard tale of a party.
Okay, so here's the rub. You set out to make a horror film. Okay, cool. Next, you decide to make it a vampire story. That is dark territory. As many amazing vampire horror films that have been made, there have been many that weren't great. Let's be real. But that's not the fun part. You then decide to set this vampire tale in the 1930s Jim Crow South, with the story centered on African American twins and a predominantly African American cast that displays all the racial strife, pain, and hardships that were a part of American history. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, right? Maybe, maybe not. Like anything art-wise, you have to be true to yourself and display your talent full blast. That is, if you have talent. Enter director Ryan Coogler, tasked with bringing a beautiful yet often ugly story to the masses. The question is, would they dig the beat the movie gives them, or would they bite the hand of the filmmaker into failure like Mary when she bit and killed Stack right in front of his twin brother? Let's get down to brass tacks. This is my series to dissect films, the good and the bad of them. Welcome to Why You Hate. I'm going to go over some reasons why some fans have issues with Sinners. Bullshit! And I know this will be a strong debate in this community for the lovers of this film and the detractors of it. So get ready to see the smokestack twins start a business together, check out an ancient dancing Irish vampire getting down, see your childhood crush become a literal killer, and bask in the glory of the surreal montage as Sammy shows us the history and power of many different cultures' music through the past, present, and future. Here are the reasons why you hate Sinners. Number 1. Story and inspirations. Some fans have said that the story of Sinners feels convoluted and all over the place, and some wanted less story and more blood, guts, and gore. And I can understand that, but in my mind, the story is always the strong point of a film, and it is very strong in this one. It sets up the characters, their motivations, and the impending obstacles way before the carnage begins. In that sense, I care more about what's going to happen, and I'm definitely on the edge of my seat more. In the film, there are always inspirations, and Sinners is no different. Some may see this as a disadvantage, but it could be an advantage if it's the right type of inspiration. Ryan Coogler said that 2 of his biggest influences for the film were From Dusk Till Dawn from 1996 and The Faculty from 1998, both directed by the great Robert Rodriguez. Both of these films were absolutely fantastic, but we'll get to that later on. 1 or 2 shots of Stack post-vampirism are obvious nods to the framing of Jack Nicholson in The Shining, using the unique camera angle directly underneath him as he leans his head and hands against the door. Christopher Nolan and his producing partner and wife, Emma Thomas, assisted Ryan Coogler in shooting with 65mm film. No matter what you may think of this film, you have to give credit to how beautiful and cinematic it looks. Shout out to Nolan for always trying to help keep movies an important form of art in the world. Ryan Coogler revealed another inspiration for the film was a lesser-known episode of Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone. Truthfully, the biggest influences are not in cinema, Coogler told Sci-Fi Now. The novel Salem's Lot is a massive influence on the film. Then there's a real deep-cut influence. My favorite thing ever made is The Twilight Zone, and my favorite episode is called The Last Rites of Jeff Myrtlebank. Probably Salem's Lot and The Last Rites of Jeff Myrtlebank are probably the biggest influences. Premiering in the 3rd season of The Twilight Zone, the episode centers on Jeff Myrtlebank, a young man living in a small town in the southernmost section of the Midwest, who mysteriously returns to life at his own funeral, much to the shock of his loved ones and pastor. Despite their reasonable trepidation, the townspeople declare it's a miracle That is, until rumors began to swirl regarding minor, yet noticeable shifts in Jeff's behavior following his unexpected resurrection. Ryan also cited the guilt he felt as he lost several family members while away making movies such as Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, including 2 other uncles. He vividly remembers what happened when he found out his Uncle James passed away. He said, quote, "I remember getting a call and just feeling like shit," he said, "being away from my family again, and he would send me motivational messages while I was in Philadelphia for Creed when he heard I was homesick. And he would tell me, just hang in there." He would quote blues songs. "Hey, hang in there. Like Albert King says, everything's going to be okay." That was his thing. I would find myself listening to those blues records when I wanted to think about him, and I would feel like I was conjuring him. If the song was good enough and loud enough, if the room was dark enough, I would feel like he was right there listening with me. It's particularly significant that the character of Remick is introduced fleeing from Choctaw hunters. Not only is the movie set in the historic Choctaw homeland, there is a long history of cooperation between the Choctaw and Native America more broadly, and the Irish. The Irish potato famine occurred 16 years after the Choctaw, Cherokee, and other peoples were forced to walk the Trail of Tears. Knowing tragedy and hunger themselves, Choctaw and Cherokee survivors donated hundreds of dollars to support famine relief. In 2017, Ireland erected the Kindred Spirit sculpture in acknowledgement of friendship between the 2 peoples, with a companion sculpture called Eternal Heart installed on Choctaw land in 2024. When the coronavirus pandemic began in 2020 and the Navajo and Hopi nations were hit especially hard, Ireland sent a $2 million donation, accrediting it to Choctaw kindness in their time of need. One of the spirits that was summoned by Sammy is a Peking opera dancer dressed as Sun Wukong, a suggestion made by Bo Chow's actor Yao when he was asked about which Asian characters to include. And that was one of the things that I also found very interesting. There are a lot of different cultures represented in this film, and especially in the surreal montage. Swedish composer Ludwig Göransson, Ryan Coogler's University of Southern California Film School classmate, who has scored all of his feature films, including this film, developed an appreciation for the blues from his father. The elder Göransson became a lifelong fan of the genre as Mississippi blues artists like Albert King toured Europe and stopped in Sweden. Witnessing his uncle's passion for the blues in someone who didn't even hail from the US, it stirred him profoundly, he said. "I was on a blues trip with Ludwig and his dad, and it was his dad's lifelong dream to go to Mississippi," Coogler said. "This is a 70-year-old man from Sweden, and we're standing on the Dockery plantation in the Mississippi Delta, and he has tears in his eyes. I got tears in mine for 2 different reasons." Ryan Coogler says he had the American heavy metal band Metallica on his mind when he was laying out the story's rhythms and beats. He said, "I wanted the movie to have the simplicity and simultaneously the profound nature of a Delta blues song, but I wanted it to have the contrast, variation, and the inevitability of a great Metallica song like One," he says. One is the signature song from the band's 1988 album, And Justice for All. It starts off with almost like an easy listening solo, you know what I'm saying? And then it just goes batshit insane in a way you could never see coming at the time. It felt like it was going there all along, Coogler said. The movie's basically that. Lars Ulrich, the drummer for and one of the founding members of Metallica, is credited as one of the drummers in this movie's scoring orchestra. Most of the movie is presented in a 2.76:1 aspect ratio, but for major visual set pieces such as Sammy's song at the juke joint, the vampire's Irish dance outside, and the climactic battle, the aspect ratio widens vertically to 1.43:1 aspect ratio. In short, whenever the aspect ratio opens up, it means something big is about to happen. The story kicks off set in 1932 in the Mississippi Delta. The film stars Michael B. Jordan in dual roles as twin brothers trying to leave their troubled lives behind them. They return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that a greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. There are definitely parallels to From Dusk Till Dawn, and in my mind, that's a great thing, as From Dusk Till Dawn is a fantastic film in its own right. Here's the thing though, Sinners is so much more layered through its story. Let's continue. Number 2, characters. There are many characters in this film, and usually that would signal major imbalances of development, but there is a lot of time for the main characters to get fleshed out in a satisfying way, even in some ways that you don't see coming. Grace and Bo Chow played the married shopkeepers. They were both cool characters that rounded out the main group. Delroy Lindo as Delta was masterful, as he always is. So much charisma and gravitas in his delivery. The truth is, though, Delroy Lindo didn't see this film as horror when he read the script. He interpreted the story to be about what happens when a community is infiltrated and turns on itself. He told Ryan Coogler that's what he felt. He gave the director impressions after reading it once, and he affirmed his impressions. He also told the director where he thought the script needed work, and he agreed with him. So from day one, they were on the same page in terms of the direction that they wanted to take the work. Annie, played by Wami Musaku, was an elegant and intelligent character that balanced Smoke. Her scenes with Jordan are powerful and filled with natural chemistry. Jack O'Connell signed on despite only getting to read the script once, as his character would be singing Irish folk music, a dream come true for a fan of the genre. Remick talks about everyone joining him as one big happy family, contrasting with the racism of the KKK. It just so happens that the word clan derives from the old Irish clan, which literally means family. Remick's Irish roots may be a nod to Bram Stoker, who was himself Irish. Remick mentions how Christians took his father's land. Given that he's Irish, this would mean he was alive before the island was fully converted to Christianity, putting his mortal life somewhere between the 5th and 7th centuries, making him at least 1,300 years old. There's no doubt that O'Connell was amazing in this role, and he stole pretty much every scene that he was in. Respect to the ancient Irish vampire. Sinners was filmed primarily in New Orleans and the surrounding areas of Louisiana during the spring of 2024, meaning high heat most of the time. Wami Musaku says that she learned fast to follow Michael B. Jordan's lead and not complain, but maybe still vent. What I learned from Michael was he doesn't complain. He would just kind of be very still in his very thick suits, very thick, very hot. He would be like, there's nothing we can do to change it, so let's just kind of push through, because the complaining brings you down a little bit. Musaku clarifies, though, except for the bugs were hard to not complain about. Haley Steinfeld was Mary, who is the love interest of Stack. Their relationship goes back to childhood and is quite complicated. She was mesmerizing and popped in the role. Once she turns, though, it's on. Sad, but yet fascinating when she uses her connection and her sexuality to turn Stack. It's almost as if they were fated lovers. Haley Steinfeld opened up about making discoveries about her own roots in preparing to play Mary, who is a multiracial woman. She said, "It had such an impact on me personally. Therefore, I feel like the least it can do is make an impact on those who watch it. I think it affected us all so personally and so deeply, and I do believe that you feel that and you see that when you watch this movie. I'm so grateful for the deeply personal connection that each of us have to the material." She added, "Mine being with my family history, with my grandfather, who I wish was still here to answer all the questions that I have that this movie raised for me in making this movie raised." She added that part of my research included understanding my own family history a bit better, which I am grateful for. Ryan Coogler was super impressed by Miles Caton's audition tape from the very beginning. He was just in the dark, like he didn't turn his lights on, Coogler said. Something about that was so intriguing. This kid looked like he was in his basement, like in between homework assignments, but he had this voice, a once-in-a-lifetime voice. This was Miles' first role, and he absolutely nailed it. He shows a maturity beyond his experience, and hopefully will have a very bright future in film. His voice, when he sings, it just chills the soul and truly feels like he could open the veil between the living and the dead. The Moore/Smokestack twins are named after Smokestack Lightning by Howlin' Wolf. Ryan Coogler explained the extensive preparation he, the production, and the special effects team went through to prepare for depicting one actor, Michael B. Jordan, as identical twins. This process including consulting on the technical logistics with other filmmakers who had previously shot single actors playing twins or doubles before, including Christopher Nolan with The Prestige and Tenet, and Sean Durkin with Dead Ringers. They cast a twin double named Percy Bell, an actor who was physically similar to Michael B. Jordan, to stand in for the other twin in doubled scenes. The production also hired twin consultants, identical twin brothers named Noah and Logan Miller, to advise Jordan on his performance and help him understand the experience of being an identical twin. For most of the movie, the twins, Elijah, who is Smoke, and Elias, who is Stack, played both by Michael B. Jordan, are differentiated by color. Stack wears red accessories, including a tie, pocket square, and wide-brimmed hat, while Smoke wears blue, including a blue shirt front and blue Newsboy-style cap. However, by Smoke's last appearance in the movie, all these blue accessories have been stripped away, and his formerly white shirt is covered in blood, meaning that he is also clothed in red. Michael B. Jordan revealed doing the film was a really good experience for him, adding, "I never did a horror film before, and playing two characters, and twins at that. I think the combination of all those things make this experience like truly unique and special for me." Haley Steinfeld praised his performance in the film. She said she was in awe of the entire time of Michael and his ability to so seamlessly go between the two, all while keeping a smile on his face and setting the tone for the rest of us. Jordan carried the lead roles like a pro and showed courage, tenacity, and strength, even when the brothers showcased shades of their villainous sides. Probably the best Jordan performance in a career of many highs. Number 3, kills. The kills were basically flawless. The practical work once again shined and reminded us all of the glory of the 80s. You know what I'm talking about. Just saying. Some would argue that the kills were not vicious enough and maybe wanted more carnage. Well, I can understand that, but honestly, if you want carnage, you can watch a movie like Terrifier. I mean, those 3 films are locked, loaded, and packed with carnage and gore. There's a time and a place for that, but Sinners is aiming for something more special and meaningful in my humble opinion. When Mary turned Stack, it was an emotional moment. Michael B. Jordan shined so many times in this film, and this one is no different. The sadness and pain of losing basically his other half is gut-wrenching. Annie's death is also a pivotal moment. For Smoke, it seems like all is lost. Can he survive this supernatural war? Will he even want to? Haley Steinfeld and Wunmi Masaku said about the fake blood working conditions, quote, "The special effects guys have you all wired up and they're pumping blood and it just gets everywhere," says Masaku. "You just have to get very comfortable with being uncomfortable. It was very sticky. That was something that we were not forewarned about. The amount of times makeup had to run in with a spray bottle of water just to unstick our fingers, because we'd just be standing there and our fingers would get stuck together," added Steinfeld. To remove all the evidence of vampire-fueled bloodbath at the end of the day of filming required, quote, "a lot of hot towels," said Steinfeld. Plus, honestly, just a good shower.
Have you seen my silhouette?
Number 4. Vampires. These vampires show elegance, talent, and viciousness all in one. I was intrigued by the mythology and how at times it followed popular rules and at times when it didn't. Having to get permission to enter the joint created some intense scenes, but that was also the setup for the final conflict. Of course, there is always a ringleader. Remick is the villain and we all knew it. But what we didn't know is how he was truly wanting to save people. It was a very interesting, if not divisive, choice that Coogler made. Remick gave the twins and everyone a way to live in freedom without all of the injustices that the world placed on them. It's very enticing, right? In some ways, a great choice to pick. That was at play in the film, big stakes. Coogler used the public's fascination with vampires and horror to make a larger point. For him, the vampirism is a warning to look beyond the moment and temporary gain, because if you don't, you might just find that the quick fix to a problem comes at an incomprehensible price to the culture and future. Coogler and his cinematographer allowed the camera to roam around the juke joint as musicians from throughout history, including African drummers and modern hip-hop DJs, appeared as if summoned by the beauty and passion of Sammy's performance. There's so many layers to that sequence and how we executed it, but all the historical layers regarding ancestry, music, culture, and where our community was born from. Cinematographer Autumn Arkapaw told Variety as she explained how they made what was referred to as the surreal montage happen. IMAX cameras can only shoot continuously for around 2 minutes, so the sequence was constructed as 3 separate shots, which would be stitched seamlessly in the edit. During the scene, Sammy's music appears to literally burn the roof off of the juke joint, with characters real and imagined seen dancing against the light of the flames from the burning sawmill. It's this sequence which draws the attention of Remick and his fellow vampires themselves, inspired by Irish folk music. Arkapaw added, "There's a blend of a VFX takeover that tips up into the roof that's based on a burning roof plate that we shot on the last day of principal photography. Then it transitions into a night exterior shot that's on a 50-foot techno crane that pulls back in a night exterior when you see them dancing with the effect of a burned mill around them. All of this pulls you in a lot deeper and it becomes an experience," Arkapaw told IndieWire. In her Variety interview, she explained that the scene had real personal resonance for her. When the camera tilts down, you see the mill that's burned away. The people are still there and they're still strong and they're still dancing and singing. I read it as nothing can be taken away from us ever, and I feel that very much in my own family history. It's very special that I was able to be a part of that. Number 5, the finale. The confrontation between the survivors and vampires kicks tons of ass, make no mistake about it. Blood is thrown all over the place as you would expect. You also get the soundtrack booming in your body. It is an experience as much for the viewer as it is for these characters. The cathartic defeat of Remick by Sammy himself, and then Smoke versus the clan hits all the right moments. Coogler does his mic drop, and then drops it a few more times with the extra scenes. In his dying moments, Smoke sees Annie and their daughter, and hears Annie telling him he can hold the baby if he puts out his cigarette. In that moment, by choosing to put out the cigarette, he is literally abandoning a Smoke, the physical form of his alter ego. The movie, though, presents several aspects of practices of the time and place that it's set in, without explanations. Some examples include the fact that the story is set during Prohibition, which is never brought explicitly. The audience is expected to be aware of it from the year the bulk of the film takes place in, 1932, and a passing mention of the twins having worked for Al Capone while they were in Chicago. Casual viewers will assume that the Chows are just a case of the Asian store owner trope at play, while those more familiar with the history of the region the story takes place in will immediately recognize them as Mississippi Delta Chinese, with roots in the region going back to the Reconstruction period. Stack tells Sammy that the guitar they gifted him belonged to Charlie Patton, and that the twins won it off of him in a card game, but unless the viewer is well versed in the history of the Delta Blues, they will fail to grasp just how much of a big deal that is, or why Sammy is so excited about this. The implications of the twins having Irish beer and Italian wine in their stock of alcohol, or how Mary is able to deduce from that they did something nefarious to get it, that will get them in serious trouble if discovered. This becomes much more clear if one knows that the main criminal organization within Chicago during the Prohibition era from the early 20s to the mid-30s were primarily the Irish-American North Side Gang and the Italian-American Chicago outfit. Remick leads the vampires in a rendition of Rocky Road to Dublin, which has greater resonance if the viewer knows the lyrics follow a young man leaving home to seek his fortune and facing discrimination. This applies both to Remick and to the Smokestack twins. Ryan Coogler was asked about whether he considered a potential sequel. Although it was an idea that he never thought about, the director elaborated on how he wanted to work on something original after having done many franchise projects. He then explained that his intention for the film was to, quote, feel like a full meal and would be a finished thing. He said, "I never think about that. I've been in a space of making franchise films for a bit, so I wanted to get away from that. I was looking forward to work on a film that felt original and personal to me and had an appetite for delivering something to audiences that was original and unique. I wanted the movie to feel like a full meal. Your appetizers, starters, entrees, and desserts. I wanted all of it there. I wanted it to be a holistic and finished thing. That was how I was asked all about it. That was always my intention." For its big box office debut, director Ryan Coogler decided to thank the fans for showing up and the filmmakers who inspired him to make the movie. He did so by writing a letter. Some of what he said was, I believe in cinema. I believe in the theatrical experience. I believe it is a necessary pillar of society. It's why me and so many of my colleagues have dedicated our lives to the craft. We don't get to do what we do if you don't show up. The global theatrical audience has allowed me to dream, find a career, and build a more sustainable life for me and my family. And the only way that I know how to thank you for that is by continuing to mine my personal human experience and my relationships for more stories to bring to you in cinematic language. To see your response to this film has invigorated me and many others who believe in this art form. To be quite honest, whatever you may think of this film, credit has to be given to Ryan Coogler for being so in tune with the art of cinema and with the audience that goes to see it. I think he's had a wonderful career, and I can only hope for the best for him in the future. And I think he will continue to deliver some fantastic films. Another thing about the ending of the film that I found interesting, there was a lot of cinematic poetry in how it concludes. There was this sense of inevitability and a sense of history and maybe, just maybe, hope. At the end of the day, Sinners gave us a new vision for vampire films full of depth, hard history lessons, and savagery, and we as fans must deal with it. You have to ask yourself, was this what you wanted in a vampire film directed by Coogler? That is a question only you can answer. As always, this video is not here to make you love Sinners or to hate it. It's simply a discussion to highlight the history and aspects of it, good or bad, with you, the viewer. So what do you think? Were you a fan? If so, tell us why. If not, let's discuss why you hate Sinners. If you haven't hit the like button for more content, please do. If you're not subscribed to the Night Watch Zone, this is the time to do it. Do it and become part of this fantastic movie community where you'll never love and talk about movies the same. If you like this video, check out my other Why You Hate videos and other content, including live streams here, and I'll see you there. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.